Truth tellers, welcome in. I'm Torre. It's time to talk about Black feelings. It's time to talk about Black love. It's time to uplift the people. It's time to argue. Truth Talks is the most truthful, most Black, most argumentative show on the net. And we got a lot to get into today. Suge Knight, Black trauma, Black love. It's all happening. This is going to be the greatest conversation you've heard all day. Let's get into it. Truth Talk starts now.
Are y'all ready to roll? Let's go.
Welcome to Truth Talks. We used to be the #1 show on Fox Soul, but now we're here for the rawest conversations about all things Blackness. We will not agree with each other, but we will love each other at the end of the day, because this show is about like friends arguing at a bar from a Black point of view. And we're so different that some of y'all will agree with one of us, or at least go, she made a really good point there. Speaking of making a really good point there, the returning superstar, the heart and soul of the show, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. How are you, my sister?
Thank you, Torre. What's up, Truth Avengers? It's your favorite dog, Dr. Bryant. And I think today, I'm going to make sure I disagree with you, Torre, on just about every topic we talk about, you know? And this is the thing. Whenever your curls are popping the way they are, I know that you got some real good information underneath that thing called your brain. So I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it, brother.
So you're just going to disagree with me just to disagree with me?
Probably so.
That's standing 10 toes down and doubling down and all those other things that you do. But you have become like the second sister I never wanted. I have a sister I love who's a doctor, and now I have you. Fantastic. I also have another sister named Dr. Sarah Fontenot. How are you?
What's up? Love seeing you guys here. Love having these conversations. Currently in Los Angeles, so y'all going to be with me in LA this whole week.
She's in her other house. Okay. And our next gen wise man, Dimitri Wiley, back from meditating on a mountain. How are you?
I am blessed by our Lord and Savior, I tell you that.
That's beautiful. You sure are. We all are. I'm Torre. You know me. I've been in the game forever. Let's get into the trending topics of the day, because the world is going nuts about the Diddy trial. Capricorn Clark and other Bad Boy assistants have been testifying about life inside Bad Boy. It is an insane situation. Arson, extortion, kidnapping, endless hours, constant violence on planes, on the ground. Diddy seems like a monster. Kid Cudi called him a Marvel supervillain, which sent the courtroom into hysterics, but still, it's kind of true, to the extent that Suge Knight was considered the wildest, most violent man in the industry, and he briefly kidnapped me. We could get into that later in the segment.
What?
But everyone's like, what? The Jimmy, that's true. I didn't interview Malcolm X, but I did truly get kidnapped by Suge Knight. But Suge just told Harvey Levin from TMZ, hey, everyone thought Death Row Records was bad. How you feel about Bad Boy now? Shy, how do you feel about Bad Boy now?
I mean, listen, Suge is from Los Angeles, okay? Compton's Hub City, baby. Listen, if you're from LA, Compton is still Hub City in LA, Torre. Don't start with me. Do not start with me, Torre.
It's deeper than LA for him. He's a blood from Compton.
Suge Knight is, I understand. Remember, my father is also a founder of one of the biggest blood gangs. So I'm very familiar with Suge Knight, who was a good friend of mine as well, and very protective over me in many essence before even going to prison. But back to what we're talking about, I still believe that Suge Knight and Death Row was still the biggest and the baddest and the most feared record label and individual that has existed in the music industry. Do I think that Diddy has done some things that also had him being very much feared? Absolutely. But if you look at, you know, a lot of the history of the more hardcore walk in a club, walk in a room, and you got brothers just straight in fear. I mean, Suge would walk in places and dudes would literally just shiver. Suge would walk up and just snatch somebody's chain off their neck, and there was nothing anybody was going to say or do. This is a guy who not only is his presence, this dude is like 6'2", 2'8". big dude, had a very dominance when he walked in the room, but his personality and his resources and his gang lifestyle and mentality was something that people fear and still, believe it or not, fear to this day with him being in prison. Yeah, people are opening up and talking more smack about him because he's behind these bars thinking he's never getting out. But that brother still has a lot of call when it comes to the streets.
Sarah.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me when I think about this whole Diddy situation that's happening in Suge, I think about how this man was all brawn, whereas Diddy is brain and bank account. Because let's be clear, first of all, you can do a lot more when you have more money, but I almost feel like Suge Knight loved the idea that he was the person that everyone was afraid of, whereas Diddy's a little more cloak and daggers. It's a little more hidden. You only really know if you know, which in my opinion, is smarter. And I feel like when you're the person at the forefront punching people in the face, dangling people off of a balcony, I think we've all heard allegedly that he dangled Vanilla Ice off of a balcony. Like, that's kind of sloppy to me. You're supposed to have people to do that for you. So, was it worse? I think it was more direct. I think it was more in your face. I think it was play with me if you want to. But I think Diddy's had more money to just be more cloak and daggers about it.
Dimitri.
Ooh,
No, he did not.
Not even a joke. Just a tongue.
I know he did not.
Dimitri Wiley, please go.
No, I agree with everybody here. I think the idea of Diddy versus Suge Knight both was demasculation from, they both demasculated their victims. Suge did it in a physical way, like Dr. Sarah Fontaine was saying, and Diddy was more mental. I don't know if you've ever seen a man uncomfortable in a room, not just out of fear he'll be hurt, but fear he's seen as a victim. I think Diddy had that way back when they was doing the TV shows and he was sending people across the country to get cheesecake and shit. I don't know if y'all remember that. But,
everybody remembers that.
Diddy just had a way of playing in people's minds. But, it takes me to an interesting perspective about the whole thing. I think the idea of it, like, it makes me look at our society, like our culture, like, how have we idolized this overinflation of power? Like, it's blurred the morale between what's actually acceptable due to fame, if that makes sense to you guys. Like, fame is now giving gateway to all of this, and it's just kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. So, God, I don't remember when this was. I think it was in the 90s when Death Row was really hot. I interviewed Suge as part of a story about somebody else, a mentor of Suge's. I'm in his office at Death Row, and his mentor was suing him. And we did a 45-minute interview, and I said, so what's up with the lawsuit? And he was like, what are you talking about? Oh. And, I was really, some would say dumb. Some would say aggressive, some would say dumb. I'm sitting in his office. Nobody knows that I'm there. It's midnight. And I'm like, you know what lawsuit I'm talking about. I'm truncating the story. He told me he grabbed me by the shoulder and dug his hand into like my shoulder blade and like pulled me into the corner of the room where there was a fish tank, which at this moment I'm thinking, oh, it's a piranha tank. And he's going to freaking put my hand in there or something. I thought he was going to beat me up. I was definitely like, if I leave here with only one broken bone, at one point there was somebody who was clearly a blood right now standing there. And he was like, as soon as you say anything, I will go beat the crap out of him. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to die tonight. And nobody even knows that I'm here in Death Row right now. This is a true story. I can tell the much longer story later on, but we want to move on. But that really happened. And yes, you're completely right. Suge's reputation was known and public, and people were scared of him. And yes, grown. I mean, he brought the blood and the street energy into the game in a way that nobody else had, certainly not at the executive level. Somebody else.
So really quick, because I had I'd be out in club, back in the day I was young and clubbing. I'm still young, but I don't be clubbing no more. But I'd be clubbing and be out and about with a group of friends. And Suge would literally walk from his table to our table and literally stand in front of like the whole bottle service and be like, yo, Shy, with this presence and this voice that the music is loud, but all you heard was his voice. I'm not playing. And I would be like, hey, what's going on? He'd be like, you good? Are you good? So everybody can feel the presence. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm good. All right. Well, if not, I'll be right there. And when I tell you that was just a presence that my father had, but when I wasn't with daddy, Suge had that. And I know he was this, big vicious man, but when it came to me, I experienced this big, like gorilla type of teddy bear, because he was never disrespectful and never very aggressive with me, but he made sure everybody around me understood what motherfucking time it was if they were to some kind of way disrespect me. So for that, I gotta say, I appreciated that. I know I used to be out and about and love when I see him, because I'm like, he's gonna come in here and shut shit down in the event that I need him to. And so shout out to Big Suge. I did appreciate them days.
Well, now you got two more men who will jump on somebody to protecting you.
Yes.
Because we all love you here too. Speaking of people who were wild in the streets, DMX, before he was a rapper, he was a mugger who did not need a gun. His reputation preceded him. He would roll up on people, be like, run it. And they would run it. They would know, X got hands, he will knock you out. It will be a problem. Don't let it happen to you. A lot of several things of his memorabilia has been put up for auction. Cassette tapes of him rhyming early in the 90s, flyers from early in his career, some handwritten lyric sheets, a VHS tape of him. If you have a VHS player, you could actually see some of these early videos of him. So now these things, this memorabilia is coming from a friend of X's. So the money will go to the person who owns the stuff now. That's the way auctions work. But X's first wife, Tashara Simmons, told TMZ she is very upset about all of this. She thinks the things should be given to X's 15 children. That is her prerogative to feel that way. But Dimitri, how do you feel about the friend selling the memorabilia and not giving it to the kids? Like, you agree with Tashara or not?
I'm gonna be honest. It's in possession. The thing about it is there's no moral compass to what you should do for your dollar. Cause the thing about it's heartbreaking. Like, I get it, it's heartbreaking. But honestly, I'm not surprised. Like, in the Black community, if you specifically focus on the Black community, we prepare for death emotional, never economically. Like, we just don't believe we gonna die. Like, it's our time. Like, no life insurance, no XYZ. And this is very common in the Black community. So when things like this happen, we start to feel like, oh, it should happen in death. When in all actuality, it wasn't happening in life either. Like, y'all ain't had shit in life either. Like, but I digress.
Cheyenne, I want you to respond to that. But I mean, I personally have no knowledge of DMX's estate, whether they have a lot of money or not. I have no idea, right? I have no evidence or knowledge on that. Go ahead, Cheyenne.
I just want to piggyback off what Dimitri said. I feel like if there was a trust or a will, then possibly they would be able to follow exactly, X's desires and his will for his children. I think that when you get to this place of post-death, again, because we are a very interventive community and not a preventative or a preparation community, we run into these things, especially when you start to talk about men. And all due respect to X, love X, right? He was one of the best. When you have men who have multiple kids by multiple women, this also becomes an issue because you don't have one wife, which is the go-to, right? To say, hey, listen, my husband and I had these conversations and we have all these kids and this is what we would like to be done and contribute to our children. You have multiple women who are mothers of their kids or baby mamas that you also have to consider what do they want with their kids. So what am I saying is that blended families can work, but when you start to have these multiple baby mamas, these broken homes and broken families, this is a direct result of not having your shit ready and also procreating in ways where, things are spread out so thin that everyone takes a loss. Just like in this case, all the kids are taking a loss because nobody is going to reap the benefits of this man's legacy and long, hard-worked career that X has obviously worked hard for, and no one gets it but his friend selling the memorabilia.
One thing that I can say, Sarah, I overheard, because I was doing a story on DMX, so I hung out with him for like 3 days in LA, and I overheard him talking to Tashara for an hour. And the love for her and the family was clear. Like, he loved his kids. He loved her. So, I mean, blended family, all that, but he did love this woman. I heard him on the phone with these children. He loved those children. He loved being a father. He loved being a husband or a longtime boyfriend with Tashara. But I know, Sarah, you are very let's say, knowledgeable and aware financially. And I want to go back to what Dimitri was referencing around estate planning. Black people, sometimes we're not as forward thinking. And I'm not necessarily saying DMX is or isn't, but like, that's kind of what subject we're on here. Where should we be in terms of estate planning if we have something to pass down? What are the things we should be doing?
Well, as Dimitri said and Dr. B said, life insurance is great. Trusts are great. But honestly, I feel like we have a generational flaw. We have a cultural flaw in the sense where they don't teach financial literacy inside of school. The only way that you learn financial literacy is if you outwardly go and seek it, you have a mentor in it, or someone in your family is involved in it. And unfortunately, for a lot of the Black families, number one, we're all focused on make the money. We don't talk about keeping the money, sustaining the money, or leaving money behind. We talk about what do we have right now? What cars, what jewelry, what this, what that, especially inside of this industry. And so when you think about how different music legends and their estates, we've seen this before with Aretha Franklin, with Michael Jackson, with Prince. There are so many different people that were not able to pass down their estates to their family or their children because they themselves were not financially literate. And so it goes back.
I'm sorry. Prince did that, and Michael Jackson did that. But I want you to give us examples of what we should be doing, what Black people should be doing for our children.
Yeah, for number one, okay, this is loaded. I got 30 seconds to tell the truth. Number one, you could when your kids are young, you could get them a custodial account where you're paying a few $100s into it at a month. By the time they're 18, your kid could have $1 million. You could do a trust where you get paid by your trust. Let's say that you start a side business on the side. If you start a side business, you have an LLC. That LLC is paying you. You could pay yourself less to be able to qualify for certain things that we might talk about in different topics. There are so many different ways that we could set ourselves up if we knew the loopholes. Because please believe these wealthy people, I know wealthy people that can qualify for food stamps. Okay, let's just keep it real. There's a lot of loopholes that we're not clear about, but to keep it really basic, a custodial account for your children is amazing. A life insurance policy on ourselves as parents, or as we get older, for our families, on ourselves and on our children, because you can also use a life insurance policy, something that you can borrow against and put the money back, but it still grows as if you never really took the money. There's so much to get into, but I would say those are two really great starting points. And trusts are great for taxes. That's all I'm going to say. Speak to a financial advisor and look into that for you and your family.
Let's do more on this later, because money is so important and it's such an emotional issue. And there's so many great Black financial advisors out there. I think about the Budgetnista. I think about Ian Dunlap, like really smart people who could come and have a great conversation with us about all these issues, about the custodial accounts, the 529s, all the things. So like producers, let's do a big money issue so we can talk about the emotion around money and the smart things that we should do. Let's leap forward into a huge fight that's going on in our politicking segment. Trump is at war with Harvard. He's at war with all American universities, but right now he is focused on Harvard, and they are fighting back spectacularly. And I am such a fan of how they are trolling him and pushing back against him. Columbia laid down, Princeton laid down. Harvard is like, hell no, we're fighting back. And I don't fully understand what Trump's real problem here is, because when he talks about Harvard and the problem, he sounds like someone who could never, ever even have a chance to get into Harvard. Roll the clip.
Part of the problem with Harvard is that there are about 31%, almost 31% of foreigners coming to Harvard. We give them billions of dollars, which is ridiculous. We do grants, which we're probably not going to be doing much grants anymore to Harvard. But they're 31%, but they refuse to tell us who the people are. We want to know who the people. Now, a lot of the foreign students we wouldn't have a problem with. I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students. But it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much, because we have Americans that want to go there and to other places, and they can't go there because you have 31% foreign. Now, no foreign government contributes money to Harvard. We do. So why are they doing so many? Number one. Number two, we want a list of those foreign students, and we'll find out whether or not they're okay. Many will be okay, I assume. And I assume with Harvard, many will be bad. And then the other thing is they're very anti-Semitic. Everybody knows they're anti-Semitic. And that's got to stop immediately.
It is hysterical to have Trump, who hangs out with Holocaust deniers, talking about Harvard as anti-Semitic. But whatever. Shai, the attack on Harvard and really all private universities will have an impact on Black students. Talk about what this all means for Black students.
So let's go back. At Harvard, the recent graduation class seen a drop between 18% to 14% of Harvard law students when it comes to Black students, okay? So it's showing a drop of Black students anyways now before Trump even put this rhetoric out. But I want to go back to the whole reason why, right? Obviously, Harvard rejected Barron.
No. The first lady's office said no, he didn't apply to Harvard.
Oh, he didn't? Oh, okay. Well, that was rumor that he did, right? But then Malia Obama was accepted. Okay. So I was going to say that was one of the reasons why I can see Trump trying to be petty. But if you're saying that that is alleged, then I'll pull back on that. But what I do want to say is that there has already been a drop in Black students from between that 14 to 18% from this previous graduating class. And so I don't think that Trump's initiatives or whatever Trump is attempting to do has anything to do with the Black students being dropped out. Will it affect foreigners? Absolutely. But we already know that Trump is trying to put these huge hedges around our country so that we keep foreigners out more in a way so that he can pun intend them for them to do what he says and how he says it. And if he doesn't, he is going to try to take away every single resource for these outside countries that he can. So until Harvard does whatever the hell Trump wants him to do, and until these foreigners do exactly what he wants, which is more of an economic thing, then Trump is going to be pressing and putting his foot on the gas against anyone who doesn't align with his dictatorship, because he is not a president who is, again, in a democracy. He is a president that is saying, I, Trump, have a call of action. I, Trump, have a plan. Whoever doesn't fall into this plan will get what we were just talking about, Suge Knight and Diddy. He ain't no different. He just happens to be in the White House.
Dimitri.
Okay, me personally, fuck a rumor. I think he applied. I honestly think this is petty. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is me personally, because they're gonna say whatever they want to say. They've been lying to our face for fucking forever. The thing about it is, for me, I've never seen a more emotional president in my life. I've never seen somebody so hell-bent on getting their personal vendetta off with policies. I've never seen it in my life. And the thing about it is, it's defunding the future. It's defunding the future of Black. If we gotta go abroad to fucking further education, it's not just a brain drain. We watching defunding. Like they're literally and it's specifically because he's emotional. I think he applied. I think he didn't get in. But to me, I also think that to Trump, if you're not white America, you're foreign. That's how you look at it.
Yeah.
That's how you look at it.
Ooh, child. All right, y'all. You ain't gonna like what I have to say, because I personally am not mad at what Trump is doing here. And what I mean by that is Harvard, first of all, is a white school. It's not even a school, it's a club. This is an opportunity where men and women get to send their sons and daughters so that when they graduate, despite their grades, they're able to have a high income opportunity when they come out of that school. That also being said, it's a privately owned school. And after some research, you'll find that just from tuition alone, they got $1.4 billion last year. Just from tuition, $6.5 billion in total. And so I do feel like it's not about foreigners. Why are we so worried about everybody else's backyard when this could potentially open up spaces for Black people here inside of America? So I feel like when you look at the math and you start doing the math and you look at how Trump is saying they shouldn't have people come in that we can't account for. Did you guys know when I moved to LA by myself and went to a conservatory, the cost for out of country students, foreign students, was 3 times the amount of those that were domestic students. At Harvard, it's the same price. So why are foreign students not paying more to now come and take American students' places? I don't understand that. For me, that's something that doesn't make any sense. It's a very rich school, and he's attacking a white boys club. What is the problem with this? I personally, I don't see it.
I mean, part of the thing is that the money that the government gives to Harvard and Columbia and other universities is used for research that helps the entire country. So the billions that they get from the government is not part. It's not part of that boys club thing that you're referencing. But also, this is about academic freedom. And what the Trumpies are saying to the different universities is like, well, if you want our money, then you have to teach these things. And of course, part of that is not teaching Black studies or not teaching it the way we've been teaching it. And when I think about I was a Black studies major in college. And when I think about the spiritual and emotional impact, say nothing of the psychological impact of learning of our history, of learning of the resistance, of learning of the way that we have existed in this country, culturally, revolutionarily, all these, it has transformed me. And I would feel bad for children, Black children who want that information and can't get it or can't get it accurately because Trump has put his thumb on the scale and changed the way that we teach. And the same for young Arab children or Black children who want to learn about what's really going on in the Middle East, the true story, which colleges are teaching. I want colleges to teach the truth. And I think the Trumpies are not really interested in that. Cheyenne, I see you shaking your head a lot.
Because you're talking about how the impact of knowing our history can, avoid that intense identity crisis of where did I come from? Who am I?
Yes.
Right. And why am I experiencing these things, which is what critical race theory talks about, not leaving behind our history, because you can't always see racism. It's an experience. It's systemic. And so if we don't know what the systemic feels like, what the experience was, then we're fucking over our folks who don't get that experience. But I want to add to that is when we talk about the Black experience, I think that we should focus a lot more on the HBCUs. We want to learn about Black and be Black and experience that. We should not have to just depend on these Harvards and these Ivy League schools who their main focus isn't us. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't have the privilege or the resource to be able to apply and be accepted. But I also think that we got to feed into the HBCUs who are made for us, by us, and go there and say, look, let's figure out how we can get more money there. Let's figure out how we can get the history classes being taught there. We can get that experience being there. Let's not lean on so much of Harvard and Stanford's and these Columbia colleges to do this, when again, this is something that we as a people have to make sure our people get. It is not their responsibility to make sure we feed our sheep what our sheep need to be successful. We have to pull back on that.
The first, I went to Emory in Atlanta, and the first time we went over to the AUC to hang out at Morehouse and Spelman, it was like, oh my God. Even as a 19-year-old, I was like, these people are much more mature than me. They have much more self-esteem. They have much more of a sense of self. They're talking about Morehouse men and Spelman women. At Emory, we were not talking about Emory men. We were not talking about raising the spirit in the way they clearly were talking. I was like, just stepping foot on the yard was like, this is different.
Wait, hold on. Torre, you said something, stepping foot on the yard, not the campus. Even our cultural lingo was different at the HBCU. We stepping on the yard. Not the campus. Yeah. And this is what I mean. And the PWIs have pretty much thrown us to the wolves.
To say, and you pick up that same thing. I told you, I know Kamala from way before when she was at ADA. And I remember talking to her about Howard. And when she talked about as soon as she said the yard, like the eyes go like the smile in the eye thing when we remember something that we like. It's just such a powerful thing. Like, the community that you experience in those spaces. Go ahead, D.
You know what I'm finna do? Just because y'all giving me that, I'm gonna go to my son kindergarten class and I'm finna fund a pizza party.
Come on.
You gotta start small. So Ray, you gotta start small. You understand what I'm saying? Hey, we'll get that.
Look at that. Now he's bringing valuable emotions to the kindergarten class.
Come on now.
Pushing against what a lot of us are feeling all the time moving into the main topic. A lot of Black people feel themselves in a trauma loop. What is that? Look at this video. Let's talk about it.
If you're struggling with anxiety and you're constantly being triggered by everything, you need to watch this video. So you're experiencing panic attacks, maybe physical symptoms, just overall worry and concern. And anytime you get triggered, your anxiety goes through the roof. Now you're thinking, I don't want to experience that trigger, so I'm going to avoid it. Now that makes logical sense. However, here's the trick. If you avoid the trigger, you won't feel anxiety in the moment, but what happens is the anxiety comes back. What happens is the anxiety generalizes. If you are experiencing generalized anxiety disorder, that's exactly what it does. Anxiety generalizes to other similar situations, which increase the anxiety. So the solution to overcoming this is not by avoiding the triggers, by facing your triggers and responding correctly. This is where the focus is on long-term freedom, not short-term comfort.
Okay, Cheyenne, a trauma loop, which we're trying to get into, happens when repeated exposure to trauma leads to the brain becoming accustomed to functioning in a flooded state, and you're constantly living in toxic stress.
Right.
And I think that I wanted to hear you talk about what that looks like for Black people and specifically and how we are dealing with trauma.
I love that. So a trauma loop is when your three-part house, how you think, how you feel, how you behave, continuously gives you these ruminating thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that make you feel and believe that the trauma is happening in that moment. So it makes you become active to that trauma, even though it's not happening. So what does that mean for Black people? Again, we talked about this in one of our episodes last week. When a Black man is put over by a police officer or law enforcement, right? He gets into a trauma loop where he panics, and all of a sudden he believes. This is why secondary trauma is so fucking dangerous, because every time we watch something on television or we see it on social media, okay, and they're showing us how we are being just manhandled by police, how we are protesting and getting beat on, or Black people, don't have it in them to be a certain person. My point is, George Floyd, watching that man be murdered, that's secondary trauma, which means that every time a Black man gets put over by an officer, he goes into a trauma loop that says, oh shit, this is happening to me, when it's not happening to him. So when he is asking this officer, yo, what's going on? Or he's in a state of frantic or paranoia, or he's in shock, and it looks like this man is out of control. This man is actually in a trauma loop from either first or secondary trauma. When a Black person steps into a room or to do an interview or to get employment, and all they remember is their father or their mother, or watching the news say, Black people have the lowest employment rate. Black men are the educated. Black men are not fathers, which is not true, by the way. Okay, not true. That's a false narrative. That is secondary trauma. What do you think happens to that Black man when he goes to get a job? He is already looping, saying, I'm probably not going to get this. I'm not good enough for this job. Yeah. I'm not qualified. Where I come from, it disqualifies me. So why am I here? But I got to show up. And when that man can't operate at the level that he really can because of his trauma, that is him being reactory, because the nervous system becomes activated when you believe here, not when you're experiencing externally, but when you internally believe, I am in a trauma spot right now. Trauma.
Can you also unpack what we talk about when we're talking about intergenerational trauma? Because some of the trauma loop is also from parents, grandparents, great-grandparents.
Absolutely, which is called, on the streets, we call it generational curses. But clinically, it's a dysfunctional pathology where we don't have to even see it. A lot of it can be learned behavior, but many of it is, believe it or not, embedded in our DNA. And DNA is not just something that happens when two people get together and you got an exchange of biological DNA. DNA is also reshaped and reformed by our experiences that happen over and over again. That's that trauma loop. When it's looped, and it becomes autopilot for you, your DNA becomes reshaped and reformed neurologically as well to this trauma. So guess what? That trauma becomes your baseline. It becomes your norm. So you act, you think, and you feel. Your three-part house is in alignment with trauma. And someone who is always in a trauma response state of mind cannot live in a healthy, thriving environment. They are always surviving. So guess what? They're surviving their relationships, which means they're always hostile. They're surviving at work, which means they're always hostile. They're surviving as parents, which means their kids now are indirectly experiencing abuse at the hands of a person who doesn't even have the awareness that they are in this trauma loop. That's the part that saddens me the most, and I'll land on that, is many of our Black folks are either under or overdiagnosed and don't even know that they are experiencing these traumatic learned behaviors, or this traumatic, I call it DNA type of loop. And they are putting and projecting these things on every person they come in contact with, including us. And for us to be reactive is actually adding salt to the wound. It took me to get in my field, honestly, to have compassion and grace for our people when they did that. Because before, I used to say, what the fuck is wrong with us? Why would we respond like this? What is going on? But learning the intertwined reasons behind the cause and the effect has really gave me a love and gave me a compassion for our people, because there's a lot of shit we're dealing with that we are not aware of and that we do not have resources for.
Dimitri.
Jesus. First off, thank you for all of that, Doc. Really appreciate it. It spoke to me. And I think reason being, because as a Black man, like we talk about the cops being behind you, XYZ, I could get a ticket. Let's say he gives me a ticket, and he walks away, and I say, that ended better than I thought it would. The moment I start to think like, I'm going to jail, and I ain't even done shit. I'm a good civilian. My registration's clean. I ain't even done anything, and my mind automatically goes to, I could die here. And the thing about it is, what a lot of people don't understand, this also reflects in relationships too. Like, I see it all the time. You're lashing out because of what you've seen, and that's everybody. But I think the thing about it is, nowadays, it's not just, like you said, it's generational, of course, but there's an echo that's still living. The things that our grandparents couldn't say, they couldn't say in slavery, we yelling it now on TikTok, on social media. Yeah. That's why the N-word is so triggering when somebody of the opposite, cultural set. That's why it's so triggering, because we taking on all of that they had, we attached it to that, and now we got to fight for it. We got to stand up behind it.
Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, the truth of it is, it's all a coping mechanism, right? And the truth is, a lot of us had something that happened in our childhood where we created a defense mechanism or a coping mechanism because we didn't know how to process what was happening in front of us. Yes, and I say process. And because we can't, what we don't understand is
that a Canadian thing? What's happening?
Yeah, we say process for sure. But what happens is, when we create these things, most of us don't realize that same story or coping mechanism or defense mechanism that we created when we were 7 years old, we carry into our adulthood and are never actually aware of it. Because the stories that we have, those coping mechanisms that we have, they run on autopilot. It's like air conditioning. I don't have to go push the button. It will automatically regulate to the temperature that I set. Well, our identity works the same exact way. And so until we're able to say, hey, you know what? I'm actually freezing in here. This is self-awareness, right? I'm actually freezing in here. I need to go over and change the temperature on the thermostat over there. What starts to happen is, now you have the awareness, but you also have to have compassion for yourself on this journey. Because if we look, we see that we are at the pinpoint of all of our pain. I mean, good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is what it is. There's so much power in that mindset. There's so much power in people to say, you know what? I didn't start off perfect. I didn't come from a bunch of money. I may have been raised in the hood, or for me, I was raised in the prairie, right? What that means is, we have an opportunity to love ourselves throughout the journey of understanding that not everything is our fault, but if we take power over it and accountability where we can, that's where we can make a change. So it's all about self-awareness, and stop telling yourself that doggone story. One thing I want to say for those of you that are listening or watching, some of us, we don't attract what we think about, we attract what we feel strongest about. And some of us passionately feel overwhelmed, passionately feel exhausted, passionately feel like I can't deal with these badass little kids, passionately feel like I hate my job. And because that's the cycle that you're in, you perpetuate that same cycle. Why? Because we're focused on feeling it. So now we're forever living in the future in our past. So you have to become aware, you have to have compassion, and you have to move forward.
One of the ways that this intergenerational trauma happens is in the attitudes that we pass down and the habits that we pass down, telling each other communally, culturally, what is okay. For example, we have told each other generation after generation that spanking is okay. Corporal punishment, popping, hitting is okay. This is the whitest thing that you can do. It is a holdover from slavery. This is something that the slave masters taught us that does not comport with the way that we should actually be raising children. But we think if we don't raise them tough, then they won't be tough. And all of this is creating more trauma. And I'm actually super encouraged that many of us moving into therapy and moving into meditation and moving into awareness and moving into, I interviewed this rapper who talked about emotional intelligence for half the interview. And I was so blown away, wow, that's amazing. And a lot of brothers are having, Charlemagne the God talks about going to therapy every Friday. And yet there's still some brothers who are no, I do not see it. And I'm not going with you guys. Roll the clip.
Starting to realize that there's too many of us black men who are normalizing trauma and brokenness. We have started to embrace it as if it's a strength. not noticing that it's a weakness. We think everybody against us. We don't want to mend relationships and friendships. We want to continue on in this cycle like everybody is against us. We don't want to ask for help. We claim ain't nobody for us, but at the same time, when them people are for us, we want to say that them the same ones that's going to stab us in the back, and we embracing all the trauma, all the hurt. We don't want to heal. We don't want to go through the process. And guess what? All we want to do is be at odds with one another.
Shy, Brene Brown said it takes strength to be vulnerable. I think it also takes courage to be vulnerable, just even to yourself, to admit, I am weak here. I need to do this. And I think the brother is agreed. Like, a lot of people agree with him, but I think he's missing the point that trauma is real. Black trauma is real. And we will be healthier if we are honest with ourselves that we are facing a specific African-American sort of trauma.
Let me say this. I have a whole lot to say on this, a whole fucking lot. I'm going to pass it to Dimitri real quick, just as our young brother on the show. And Dimitri, because I want to give you that space to open up about. I seen your face, I watched you, and I felt you. And then pass it back to me, because I have a whole lot of shit to say.
Good, D.
Absolutely. No, I as a black man, I get it. As a youth in this generation, I absolutely understand. I feel like we do hold on to it. But I think his idea or version of what trauma is, trauma needs to be acknowledged. And that's the thing about it is, but it's not a space you live in.
Come on.
Trauma healing comes when you've accepted the trauma and you understand how to act going forward, how to forgive going forward, how to accept relationships going forward. He talked a lot about not being able to trust people. And the thing about it is, of course, you can't trust everybody. That's a defense, but that's not related to trauma. You may contribute to trauma, but can I see the video again? Because I just want to make sure.
Yeah, let's do it. To realize that there's too many of us black men who are normalizing trauma and brokenness. We have started to embrace it as if it's a strength, not noticing that it's a weakness. We think everybody against us. We don't want to mend relationships and friendships. We want to continue on in this cycle like everybody is against us. We don't want to ask for help. We claim ain't nobody for us, but at the same time, when them people are for us, we want to say that them the same ones that's going to stab us in the back, and we embracing all the trauma, all the hurt. We don't want to heal. We don't want to go through the process. And guess what? All we want to do is be at odds with one another.
Yeah, it's exactly as I thought. The idea of it is that he's saying we're hooked to this thing, but I think it's a rise in mental health and awareness these days. When it comes to our generation, we're noticing it more. So everybody's trauma dumping at one time. Everybody's saying, this is my trauma. This is what I'm forced to live with, X, Y, Z. So the thing about it is he's saying this has become our custom. This is what we're used to. I'm used to people going on Instagram and I'm seeing how your whole life played out because you just typed this whole thing in paragraph form instead of going to seek therapy, instead of going to seek help, instead of having conversations who can actually help with people. And I think it's absolutely true. I think the idea of healing starts with acknowledging me just throwing it all on the table ain't gonna fix the problem. I gotta get to the root of it and then I gotta break it down.
Yeah, and I gotta say this real quick, and I'm gonna move to women trauma. Kudos to that black man for wanting to be an accountable black man. But brother, you can't trust fucking people. You have been dogged. People have been disingenuous to you. You have experienced police brutality. You have experienced racism. There are a group of people who are intentionally doing things to make sure they demise and keep the black man down. So let me tell you this, brother, this isn't just trauma. This is reality for many black men. Should y'all work on it? Should you heal? Like Dimitri said, should you go to therapy? You're damn right. But should you negate the fact that this is a reality, that they are putting a narrative out there that black men ain't fathers when black men are actually the number one fathers in present? You know that, Torre?
That's
I know
true.
two fathers on True Talks right now. There's Dimitri.
No, that's true.
I have seen y'all be nothing but amazing fathers, nothing but that. So what I'm saying is, for this brother, I want to actually validate people to say that, listen, black men, you have every right to feel exactly how that man feels. What we want to do is we want to stop the trauma loop. We want him to get a new experience and be able to say, when the new good experience do present themselves, he can have the awareness to differentiate the difference and say, wait a minute, I'm not actually experiencing the trauma that I have been experiencing. So let me embrace this new experience. So I can reprogram, recalibrate, and I can actually have a better experience for myself and my kids. But I don't want to take away the truth of Black men and a lot of their experience of being unable to trust people in this world. I'm not going to do that to my brothers. It is true for many.
With the loop, Cheyenne, there's so many ways that the struggles of the past are just dumped onto us by the older generation, and we accept these. And like, racism is real, police brutality is real, but the emotions that we carry because of the past of brutality, lynching, all the things, it carries forward. We carry it like baggage. And I mean, if I came to you as a patient and said, hey, I am carrying the baggage, I can hear my grandmother in Alabama in the back of my mind, right? Mm-hmm. What would you say?
This is what I would say, especially if it was you and you have a wife, right, Touré? What I would say is, guess what? That is directly impacting and affecting the woman in your life, which is causing trauma on us, because one can't rock without the other. I would tell Dimitri, you have a son. Do you plan on having a wife? Dimitri, do you have a mother? Dimitri, I'm your friend. So your trauma and the things that you're experiencing, if it doesn't heal within you, is going to impact all of us, because trauma within women is a big, big deal as well. A lot of us women, especially Black women, are experiencing a lot of trauma that we have to put our cape on, that we got to throw on our fucking back, that we got to still raise kids, get a job, work, go out there, mentor, mother, preach, teach, be single mamas and all that, and still have to carry the torch in this community of being the most educated, the ones who are the CEOs, the C-suite, the executives. And guess what? We still have to do that and protect our brothers and say, listen, although our brothers might be slacking, at least for me, I'm still going to ride with him. You still can't talk about him. You still can't down him. You still can't be racist toward him, because I'm going to stand on minds for minds. But I'm going to have that sidebar conversation like I do Dimitri, or I'm going to have that pillow talk that says, baby, you got to get your shit together. And we got to have a plan of action to do so. But in the forefront, I have to make sure as a Black woman, I am protecting and covering every single thing that comes with me, to me, and connected to me, including, to your point, Touré, my aunt, my parents, or my grandparents, or the family members that we're caring for. It is a lot of weight when it comes to Black women trauma. We don't even want to start this conversation.
Sarah, do you see ways that the trauma loop has played out in your life, going from, being younger to now?
Of course I do. I think that we all have trauma. And just to take a step back, I want to define what actual trauma is, okay? Trauma is an emotional or psychological response to a terrible or distressing event. And it often causes lasting negative effects on a person's functioning and well-being. So this is the thing that's really coming up for me, because when I think about the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me, it was a girl in school. She was the coolest girl I ever saw. It wasn't from my family. It was from my environment. It was from my school. And a lot of us need to understand that 95% of who and how we are is borrowed from our culture. So if you are around,
what happened?
So there was a girl in my school, I'll call her Jane Doe. Jane Doe was the it girl. She could sing, dance. She was pretty and she was nice. Everybody would come over. Her house was perfectly clean. Me growing up, I knew everything when I was a child. I knew I had every single answer on the planet as a 8-year-old. Of course I knew everything. And
nothing different.
Right. So when my parents would tell me to do things, I wouldn't actually listen. But I invited Jane Doe over, as long as the main areas were clean. Your bedroom, my mom's like, I'll shut the door. You want to live in filth? Be filthy your damn self, and that just was what it was. But when I invited Jane Doe over, she came over. She didn't stay very long. The next day when we went to school, she told everyone in school how dirty, disgusting, and nasty I was. And in that moment, what I didn't realize, that distressing experience for me, was I created a story that said, if I let you in, you'll betray me. Now, this is an example where our trauma loops will continue to circulate until you identify it and abrupt it. So I didn't know that story until I was 28 years old. And through that story, this is where I found out, or how I found that, was doing this I'm sorry thing. I sent a letter to everybody that I ever wronged and everybody that wronged me, all these things. And I identified different places, but it's no wonder why I was paralyzed by my first ex-fiance. It's no wonder why, when I broke up with my boyfriend, my best friends at the time would sleep with my man right away. It was no wonder why, because I had to validate this story subconsciously that said, if I let you in, you'll betray me, right? So that's an example of a trauma loop, but it's important to just be aware of what that is. You don't have to be emotional and have a psychological response. That means it still has power over you. That's what's causing the loop. You've got to get your power back.
I want to push you guys for one more sort of mental health sort of question that I think is kind of deep that Jody found for us. Roll the clip.
Man that lives in America. I have generational trauma from my ancestors because of slavery. I still don't believe all of America is safe for my black skin. All of America is not safe for my black skin. And I'm talking physically, emotionally, relationally, financially, psychologically. All of America is not safe for my black skin. That's a fact. And I have a good life here in America. I love this country. It affords me a lot of freedoms. Freedoms that my ancestors had to fight for. Everything ain't bad in this country. It's just not. Unless that's the only thing I focus on. If that's the only thing I focus on, then I think all white people are devils. I think that the man is against me and he not gonna let me back my car to the driveway. At some point, he gonna come from my house. At some point, he coming from my wife and my kids. At some point, he's gonna try to flip me and take everything he has from me. I just don't believe that about all white people. I do believe it about some. I don't believe it about all. It's just not the truth. But if I focus on it, and if that's the only thing I see, here we go, then that's the only thing the algorithm will bring in.
I mean, yes, Dimitri, if that's the only thing you focus on, that's the only thing you'll see. But if you see a broad array of the world, you will see white supremacy and racism as part of our issue.
Yeah, I think, of course, when you're speaking on that conversation, if it's all you pay attention to, you'll start to live in some paranoia state where you kind of believe you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't do this, you can't apply to that. And it's actually the paranoia state that a lot of us have already been accustomed to living to. Like that trauma affected us to where now we're in this paranoid state. I just wanted to give an example if I could. I recently had my mother on my podcast for the first time. I it was just so sweet. But the thing about my mother is, and I want to let people know that the loop can be broken. The thing about it is I've watched my mother grow more in her 40s than she did from the teens to the young adults to the XYZ. It's about understanding and seeing the loop in order for it to be broken. I remember one time I was 18 years old. I went to go buy my first foreign car. I was getting me a little Mercedes. I was working. I was doing XYZ. My mother told me, when that car get repoed, don't come talking to me. And the thing about it is, that's generational trauma she's taking from what her mother did to her, what the mother before her did to her, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, my mother came to me and apologized later in life. And she said, if I've ever told you anything that made you feel less than, she said, I apologize. It's about understanding what the triggers are and being able to break them. And I just want to say, there's no age where you can't do that.
Sarah, do we use the word triggers too much?
Yes, we do. Because a lot of people are using triggers as an excuse for their bad behavior and lack of accountability, cloaked in victim.
Wait. When I say trigger, I mean you, Sarah, to be whoever, you did something to me. So it's not an excuse for my bad behavior. I'm saying you made me feel bad.
But is it, so you are responsible for how you feel, number one. Number two, was that what I intended to do, or is that how you received it? Are you just taking it personal? Are you making an assumption, right? Most people's triggers are a literal lack in accountability, cloaked in victimhood for the ultimate deflection. How do you take blame off of yourself, point it at someone else, wrong someone else, shame someone else?
If you show me a picture of somebody being lynched, I will be triggered. That is not me deflecting or not. I mean, like you're hit. I mean, talk to me.
I feel like if you're okay, I know I'm about to piss a lot of people off because I believe in 100% responsibility and zero excuses. I am 100% accountability. If someone dies in front of me, I am still responsible for how I feel. If someone gets hurt in front of me, I am still responsible for how I feel. Is it easy to always be super regulated? No, I know Dr. B talks about all the time, high functioning. I'm a very high functioning person, which can sometimes lack a little bit of compassion. I won't lie, because my brain does not wrap around, oh, this is all the feels. My brain wraps around logic, and logic says, damn, that is really sad. I hate that for that person. I don't have the outrage that comes out of me unless it's a dire and extreme example, like being lynched. But if the trigger is, oh, I don't feel seen, heard, or acknowledged because you didn't, our community is becoming too soft.
But there's very real, Cheyenne, there's very real things that happen in the world all the time that trigger us.
Listen, motherfuckers are just triggered and triggering, straight up. Straight up. You got some people who are using it as a way to deflect, right, from their own emotional inability to regulate. But you got a lot of people who are really, truly triggered. And when you feel your trigger and express that, you are not avoiding your emotions. You are actually identifying them. You are actually saying, like you just said, Torre, hold on, you showed me a picture of someone being lynching. I'm triggered. Watching that video we just saw triggered me. When that brother was talking about how he views the world, but he has to make sure he doesn't view it in a way that keeps him oppressed, I became emotionally triggered. Honestly, I became emotional. Does that mean that I'm hiding behind some trauma I have? No, that means that I empathize with this brother on what he was saying. And so, yes, triggering is a word that people may want to throw around from time to time, but I also love that we are throwing it around. Let me tell you why. Because we are a culture that doesn't identify emotion a lot. We are a culture that doesn't express our emotions very often. That is what causes mental health issues, depression, anxiety, when you suppress your emotions. So if I got to have my clients come in session, if I got to have my brothers and sisters say, I'm triggered, good. What does triggered mean for you? What emotion comes up for you? What triggers you? Let's talk about that trauma, because that is a gateway and an entryway for me understanding what that means for you. So I push back. I hear what Sarah was saying, but I push back on the it being overused. I think it's a gateway to somebody saying I'm triggered. At least they know they got an emotion that we can then identify and work with. Please let me know when set boundaries with me so I can know how to help you help yourself, so we both won't be in this motherfucker triggered.
With the notion of triggering, just the idea, which was not discussed 20, 30 years ago, I just am able to understand. You said something that bothered me. Yes, it's still my responsibility to regulate my feelings as a mature adult in the civilization, but I understand I'm not crazy. You said something that erupted something in me. Now I have to deal with that. But like, I'm not going to blame myself for suddenly having all these feelings because you told me you're not a good father or whatever. But you know, this has been another fantastic conversation with all you guys. You bring your heart, you bring your mind, you bring your soul to every conversation on this show. You make me laugh, you make me think. Even you, Sarah.
Wait, Torre, I want to say something really quick for the folks in the comments. We're talking about triggers, y'all. I want y'all to drop in the comments, what triggers you? What just gets underneath your skin? We want to hear, what is your trigger? What is it? It could be something small, like when I'm at the red light and the person just sitting there. I don't care how big or small. Write in the comments what triggered you, and we want to hear from you, because I'm very interested in knowing who triggered you, what triggered you, and I want to see how we all can identify with that.
I don't like being honked at. I'm just, that's my trigger. Don't honk.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I might whip your ass when I get out this car. That's just me. I'm triggered.
I live in New York City. The millisecond the light changes, somebody's like, I can't even have time to tell my brain to press the gas. Like, leave me alone. I am triggered. Now I want to get out of my car and talk to you with my fist, but I'm not going to.
Did you guys know that road rage is it's a sign of low emotional intelligence? Just throwing that out there.
It is. It's low functioning, Sarah. It's low functioning.
Once again, Truth Talks keeps it real. I really appreciate the conversation, the love, the spirit. Dimitri, Sarah, Dr. Cheyenne, Bryant, thank you so much. We're going to have amazing conversations like this every night, 8 p.m. Like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube at Truth Talks-Live. You can always watch us here in the Black Star Network right after Roland Martin Unfiltered, or at youtube.com/Truth Talks-Live. Support Black media at the links on your screen. You can advertise on this show and access our 10 million strong audience. We are here every night, 8 p.m. East Coast, West Coast. Get involved. This is the conversation you want to be having, Black America. We're going to be here every night at 8 p.m. And we have chat rooms now where you can come and hang out with the folks. Doc, tell them about your room.
Listen, y'all, Doc Squad. I have my own Doc. We have our own Doc Squad room, and the lovers and the givers and the curly torades are not invited, just us. Okay. We're going to be doing a lot of that. Get, more of the doc talk, the one-on-one with docs. I'm even going to be giving away some one-on-one sessions to y'all. And that's a place where it's a safe space for us to be community, to talk, to chat. And you all know me. I like an open book. I want you guys to be in there fluid. I want you to be in there cursing. If you don't curse, don't curse. If you're going to bring in the godly, bring your shit to the community, because the Doc Squad, we lit, we bring the fire and we keep it real. So that is a place for us, not for them other three you see on here. It's our community. So meet me in the Doc Squad room.
Black media is under attack. Keep supporting us by telling a friend to tell a friend. Check us out every night, 8 p.m. EST, on the West Coast, 8 p.m. PST. I will see you tomorrow.